Avengers Endgame is finally here. This movie is directed by Joe and Anthony Russo, and it's the culmination of 11 years and 22 films of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So in this film, after the devastating events of Infinity War, the Avengers band together for one final stand against Thanos to try to undo what he did. If you guys follow my channel at all, you know that I'm a huge Marvel fan. I practically live and breathe these movies. I definitely think it's one of my favorite franchises of all time. I've been at every single opening weekend for these movies since the Avengers, I'm pretty sure. Infinity War was like an out-of-body experience for me. I loved pretty much everything about that movie, and I had never experienced a movie like that before. So naturally, I'm really excited going into Endgame. But I successfully avoided every single trailer up until I saw the movie, and that's something that I really wanted to do, and I'm so glad I did that. With movies like this, it's easy to get lost in the hype, and I try to avoid that as much as I can just so I can formulate my own opinion on the film, and so that's why I kind of stayed away from a lot of the marketing and the trailers before I went to see this movie. And just so you know, there's not going to be any spoilers in this video. I will make sure to stay away from plot points and discuss things in as little detail as I can, because I want you to go in having the best experience possible. I know I say this all the time, but I really do think I am going to have a spoiler review up sometime this coming week. I do want to see the film again before I make that video, but on Wednesday I don't have school, so I'm probably going to be able to make it during that time. So for now, I'm just going to give you my thoughts on the film overall. I really liked a lot of the choices this film made within its first hour, because a lot of that part of the film is devoted to spending time on Earth, and you get to see how the Avengers deal with being a part of the world after Thanos' snap. It starts off very dark and somber, and I think in doing that, the film really is able to establish its tone, and it brings this movie down to earth a lot, and it does the same for the characters. Unlike most other Marvel films, at the beginning of this movie, the Avengers feel broken and desperate because they lost, and you really are able to get attached to them, and they feel like real people. And even though it is kind of slow in some parts, I thought the first act did a really good job at setting up the characters and the tone of this film. If you have seen any of the trailers, then you've really only seen shots from the first act of this movie, because the second act is really when things start to pick up and the plot kind of gets into motion. It's also when the film starts to get really great. There's a lot of incredibly entertaining moments within the second act, and if you're a fan of Marvel and you've been invested in this universe for every single film up until this point, there's some amazing moments of fan service in there. And by that point, I was pretty much locked in until the end of this film. This movie blew me away. It's easily the most emotionally satisfying film in the Marvel Universe, and I thought it was a beautiful conclusion. I know a lot of people have been saying this lately, but it really is the ultimate payoff for people who've been invested in this universe since the beginning. It does an incredible job with all of its characters, and it really makes all the time we've spent attached to them feel worth it. I will say though that you shouldn't really go into this film expecting another Thanos movie, because he kind of had his film with Infinity War. This is really the Avengers' movie, and they spend a lot of time focusing on those characters. But Thanos is in the movie, and I personally really like how he was used. I think he continues to be one of the best written villains ever. And he definitely has some really good moments, but believe me when I say that this is the Avengers' movie. I don't think Chris Evans has ever been better as Captain America. Infinity War is one of the best Marvel movies, but one of the things I was kind of disappointed in with it was that Cap didn't really get his time to shine in that film. But they were really saving it for this movie, I think, because he is just incredible in this movie. I really think he had the most impactful arc in this entire movie, and one of the best things about this film is watching him grow from beginning to end. The same goes for Robert Downey Jr. We all know how amazing he is as this character, but in this film in particular, he really has some of the best moments of the entire MCU. And some of the minor characters in this film were used really well. Hawkeye, I think, has never been more interesting. I've always thought Jeremy Renner is a brilliant actor, but they've never really given him a solid moment in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and he's definitely the Avenger that gets the most shit out of anyone. But in this film, he's so compelling. It's really interesting to see what he's been doing after Infinity War and how he's changed as a person. Also, Captain Marvel was kind of awesome. I did not expect that to happen. If you saw my review, you know that I didn't really like that movie, and I never really bought into Brie Larson as that character. But she's so good in this movie. I really wanted the Russo brothers to figure out the best way to use that character in this movie, and I feel like they really pulled it off. This movie is also not afraid to take risks, and it does some things that are completely unexpected and I never saw coming. And there's some things that I kind of had to adjust to once I first figured out what they were doing. But ultimately, I really liked the choices that it made. I think it made for some really entertaining moments. And I could see some fans getting upset by some of the directions that they went in, but I was pretty pleased overall. And the last hour of this movie is magic. It's just beautiful to watch it play out. It's definitely one of the best action set pieces that I've ever seen put to film. The action is incredible to look at, but there's also some really impactful and touching character moments that are interspliced all throughout. It truly does make for the most satisfying conclusion that I think the Russo brothers could have given to this movie and to the cinematic universe. But let's talk about some negatives, because there are a couple flaws that I have with this movie. One of them being, it's not the best paced movie. Within the first half, even though I liked a lot of what it set up, I think some sequences go a little bit too slow and they drag on for a tad too long. And it takes a little while to get to the meat of this movie. I would overall say that Infinity War is a better paced film, but for the most part, it's not that much of a negative that I have. It's just some scenes here and there. Also, the final battle sequence, while it is absolutely amazing and I loved it so much, it gets a little bit overwhelming. You can tell that the Russos were trying to do a lot of things at one time, and it really shows because there's so much going on in that sequence. And to be honest, I almost feel like this film could have benefited from being a little bit longer, because they're trying to get through so much at one time. I'd say if it was like 5 or 10 minutes longer, then they could have added all the moments that they wanted to have, but they just couldn't, because there's so much going on within the last half of this movie. But overall, those flaws are really minuscule. I do think this is without a doubt one of the best superhero films that I've ever seen. Avengers Endgame is a beautiful conclusion to all of these films and everything we've seen within this cinematic universe. It does an amazing job with all of its characters, and every single one of them gets their moment to shine. The film actually took risks and tried new things that I really enjoyed seeing. It has a lot of the best moments that I've ever seen in the Marvel Universe, and it really does feel like a satisfying conclusion. I teared up multiple times in this movie. Believe me when I say that it is without a doubt the most emotional film in the Marvel Universe. This is kind of all I can tell you right now without talking about spoilers, because it's really hard to do a review like this without addressing plot points and things like that. But overall, I just really loved this movie, and I couldn't really ask it to be anything more than it was. I'm going to give Avengers Endgame a 9 out of 10. Right now, I would say that I do think Infinity War might be a better film, but just by a little bit. And a lot of that is because I just think that film is better paced in a way. I do think that this film in particular has more emotional weight and better moments than Infinity War does. Overall, they're two really great movies, and I have really enjoyed seeing how this has all turned out. So guys, those are my thoughts on Avengers Endgame. Have you seen it? What did you think about it? Let me know in the comments down below. I am seeing the film again tomorrow. I really do want to see it again before I get my full spoiler-filled thoughts on the movie to you. So yeah, you can look forward to that video very soon. Also be sure to subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.